Hello, and welcome to our session called The Power of Praxis, Writing for the NACADA Review. We're here to talk to you about writing for one of the two journals of NACADA called the NACADA Review. My name is Peter Hagen. I'm the Associate Dean of General Studies and also Director of the Center for Academic Advising at Stockton University in Southern New Jersey. And I am joined by...
I'm Julie Gibbons-Voller, and I am the Interim Dean of Enrollment Services at Phoenix College, part of the Maricopa Community College District in Arizona.
And together we are the incoming editors for the NACADA Review starting this month, October. But we couldn't do this without Ashley Thomas. Ashley, could you introduce yourself?
Absolutely. My name is Ashley Thomas. I'm the Assistant Director of Resources for the NACADA Executive Office, as well as Managing Editor for the NACADA Review. So thank you for joining our presentation today.
So, Ashley, you want to give us an overview, or should we just march right on into it?
Yes. So what are we gonna talk about today? So first of all, we're gonna talk about what is theory. How can theory inform practice? How can we connect theory to practice? And how does that fit within the journal that is the NACADA Review? We're gonna talk about the idea of praxis, that application of theory to practice. And then we're going to give you some idea of the scope and the goals for the NACADA Review as you think about writing and possibly publishing in this journal. And then finally, we will wrap up with some publication guidelines. You know, what's the word count for the NACADA Review? What style guide do we use? How do you actually submit a manuscript to this publication? So that's going to be our agenda for today. So let's talk a little bit about theory. What is theory? Terrell Strayhorn wrote a textbook for graduate students on theory in 2016. And in that, I think he provides a great perspective on how to look at theory and the different ways that we can use theory in our practice. So first of all, he thinks about theory as a framework. And I love this quote from him where he says, like nuts and bolts and beams help to connect the bottom floor or ground zero of a building to the highest floor, so too does theory help to connect single stories to larger understandings. So he provides a visual kind of depiction of how we can look at theory as a framework, how we can use theory to move from a single story or a student issue, which is ground zero, to a larger issue and a problem and a broader understanding of maybe what a student is going through at a particular moment. Strayhorn then goes on to say that we use theory as a lens. So he says theory serves as an instrument for viewing something with acuity and a degree of clarity that's only possible with the theory's aid. So think about when you go to an eye doctor and they put that machine in front of your face and they flip through the various lenses that provide more clarity to your world. That's what theory can do for us in academic advising. It can provide us with those lenses to see things more clearly, understand a student's lived experience more clearly. So that's the second way that he provides perspective on how we can use theory. And then finally, he says we can use theory as glue. When we do research projects, theory can provide that glue that helps us bring together somewhat disparate parts and make sense of those. So theory enhances the rigor of a study by linking together in a logical or at least theoretical connected whole that might otherwise be seen as random isolated facts. So it provides us with that ability to bring together things that may not normally make sense through the lens and the glue of that theory. So I get to hand it over to Peter to actually talk about how we apply that theory and those perspectives to our academic advising practice.
Glad to. You know, occasionally, Ashley, I run into people in our field that say, well, I don't really need theory. I just advise. I don't need to think about theory at all. But the fact is that regardless of your theory of theory, and you've just given us 3 examples of 3 different theories, if you will, of theory, no matter which one you choose as the one that you accept, you really cannot conduct any aspect of your life without theory. I mean, just think about going to the grocery store, and you have a certain theory about what should and what should not end up in your cart. You know, a theory about what you should and should not purchase from that store, because if nothing else, your spouse might have a different theory and wonder loudly, how did those chocolate chip cookies get in our shopping cart? It's a theory, and you may have a different theory from your spouse of what constitutes a good shopping for the family unit. The thing is, it pertains to academic advising as well. You are always already in possession of a theory of academic advising, though it may be rudimentary, it may be unexamined, because if you didn't have some theory of academic advising, some theory of what should end up in that shopping cart, then you could not advise. So theory is important to research in academic, it's important to the practice of academic advising, and it's important to the research in academic advising. Now, there's several, if you will, ready-made theories of academic advising that we can sort of take off the shelf as if we were in a grocery store of theories and say, well, I want to try this one on. And they're probably familiar to you already. One could be developmental advising, where the advisor says, I see advising as bringing about the optimal version of the student before me. A second thing that you might get off the shelf of available theories about academic advising might be appreciative advising. There's been a lot written about that in recent years. And so in a nutshell, we could say that that theory is, well, I see the culmination of advising as the valorizing, the valuing of the student before me. A noble thing to do, as is in developmental advising, bringing about the optimal version of the student before you. A third one that I'm more familiar with is narrative advising. And a narrative advisor, an advisor holding a narrative theory of advising, might say to themselves something like the following. I see my role as advisor as the co-author of a story of their education so as to enhance the meaning of that story for them. Now, theory is not something you express out loud every time. An appreciative advisor is not going to say, I'm about to appreciate you and valorize you, and this is what I believe. But it's a set of beliefs that you carry with you that guides the practice of advising when you advise. So just as there can be multiple versions of theory, there's multiple versions of the theory of what praxis is. And so back over to you, Ashley.
Great, thank you so much, Peter. So let's think about, as we can connect that theory to practice and what we are terming as praxis, what are some of the difficulties that as we sit in the advising chair every day, we may run into? What are the challenges with engaging in praxis? So one, if I think about my time in the advising chair before coming to the executive office, one of the challenges was just the luxury of time. I had a lot of demands on my time. So if my supervisor came in and said I need a intervention or a program developed, very rarely did I have the luxury of time to sit back and recall those theories from my master's program or those theories that I had read from the literature base. So time constraints can be a challenge for a practicing advisor. And then, do we have the ability, do we understand those theories on a level that allows us to easily recall them in those moments of working with students? As I sit and talk with a student, am I thinking as I'm talking with them about the theories that I could be applying in that individual situation? And there may be others that you connect with, other challenges that make praxis difficult. But as we try to enhance the profession of academic advising and truly become a profession, we would argue and encourage that this theoretical basis and this foundation is so important to advancing as a true profession.
All right, thank you, Ashley. So now I'm going to talk a little a little bit specifically about the NACADA review, our vision, our goals, and the scope of this journal. So if you check our website, you'll see that the NACADA review is devoted to examining how advisors use theory, how we use research and literature, as Ashley suggested, to influence our practice, and to take a scholarly reflection on why and how advisors do what they do when they're working with students. The NACADA review puts theory-based application on center stage. What some articles might have as the last portion of how to apply this work in a broader context, that is the focus of the NACADA review. In addition, we're looking to raise the level of discourse about academic advising, and not just among an elite few, faculty, folks who are currently in PhD programs, but for all who advise. We're also seeking to broaden the scope of research and the conversation about academic advising. So our goals include building upon the solid foundation created by our previous co-editors, Oscar and Ruth, by increasing both readership and article submissions. We'd like to generate interest and awareness of the review as a high-quality, peer-reviewed journal focused on academic advising. We're looking to cultivate new readers and new authors. Some of the strategies that we have under discussion include reaching out to folks who are doing regional and annual presentations. This is the sort of work that we're looking for, and if you've been selected as a best of region or you're presenting at the annual, chances are very good that you have taken a theory, you've taken a larger framework, and you have connected it with a practice that you're presenting at the conference right now. You've assessed that work, and now you're ready to talk about it with the wider public and to talk about how what you learned can be applied across a variety of contexts beyond your own. We're also looking to reach out to those of you who are alumni of NACADA's institutes, whether you attended a summer institute, maybe the Administrators Institute. At that program, you worked on an action plan. You worked with folks who were leaders in NACADA who helped you connect with scholarship and research in those areas to create something that worked on your campus. They helped you make an assessment plan, so now you have some results. Now it's time to write that down and show the connections that you made and how other people can make those connections as well at their home institutions. Another strategy that we've discussed is targeted author recruitment and calls for articles for some special issues. Under discussion were issues focused on HBCUs, maybe one for two-year colleges, and perhaps an issue focused on social justice research. So the scope of the journal, we're looking for submissions that are grounded in scholarship, work that is framed within a theoretical structure or that emerges from prior theory, is practice-based, and pushes our understanding to new places by providing a wholly new theoretical framework for advising. We're looking for work that moves the field forward and moves our discipline forward, making new connections and breaking new ground. That said, we're eager to see submissions that represent a diversity of thought, a diversity of epistemologies, a diversity of voices and methodologies. Let's push forward the field by writing, reading, and viewing advising through multiple frameworks, lenses, and using different types of glue. Let's look at narrative theory, critical race theory, evolutionary theory. Let's use methodologies. What can we learn about advising by studying it using action research, autoethnography, or indigenous research methods? The review is looking to broaden the conversation and push our field forward. As a newer online journal, the review presents scholars and practitioners of academic advising and higher education an amazing suite of opportunities to expand the scholarship and understanding of our work. So we hope you'll join us both as a writer and a reader of the NACADA review. And now Ashley's going to cover some of the logistics related to submitting work to the review.
Thank you so much, Julie. So yes, as the managing editor, I would love to share with you just some of the details of actually how to go about crafting a manuscript for the NACADA review, how to go about submitting that, and what the publication process actually looks like once something is submitted. So as far as manuscript guidelines are concerned, everything that an author needs to know can be found on the NACADA Review's website under the Author for Authors tab. So let me just highlight a few things. The first thing is that we abide by the APA 7th edition guidelines. So make sure that as you are crafting and drafting your manuscript that you follow APA 7th edition. Our manuscripts that come in are 6,000 words or less. That does not include your abstract, your title page, references, or any tables and figures that you might include. Of course, if you have any questions about this, please reach out to me. My email is on the website and will be at the end of this presentation as well. As far as submitting your manuscript, once that's actually drafted, the link to do that is found within that For Authors tab as well. We use Allen Press, which is the same publisher for the NACADA Journal. And so Allen Press works with us to put this journal online. And the great thing about this publication is that we receive manuscripts on an ongoing basis. And because we're online only, we can publish manuscripts as soon as they are ready. So we don't have to wait for a new issue to come online. We can actually just post it as soon as it's been accepted and as soon as it goes through our publication process. When you submit a manuscript to the NACADA Review, the process that we follow for doing that is that I will, as managing editor, I will provide the editors with a summary called a desk review. That desk review has no bearing on the decisions that the editors make. It's basically just a summary to tell them what your manuscript is about. They, as editors, then decide if it fits within the scope of the review. They will send it out to reviewers. Each manuscript that is sent to reviewers goes to 3 different people who are part of the editorial board to provide feedback. That is a blind reviewed process, so the authors do not know who the reviewers are, and the reviewers don't know who the authors are, allowing for a free flow of feedback, although we do encourage our editorial board to be very developmental in their feedback as well. That feedback will come back to the author, and you will have a chance to revise your manuscript based on the feedback given by the reviewers. If this happens with your manuscript, we strongly encourage you to address each specific comment made by the reviewers. That will help push your manuscript towards publication. And then finally, that publication process, once your manuscript is accepted, if it becomes that, we will go through what we term as a back-end publication process, including reference checking, copy editing, and proofreading. Once it goes through those stages, it then gets published to our website. So I always encourage authors to understand that the publication process is just that. It is a publication process. So please be patient and understand that every step of the way is an opportunity to learn something new, either from the editors or from the reviewers or just from the process itself. So stick with it and keep moving through the process. The editors and I are here to help you with that.
Absolutely. So that's the end of our presentation. Our contact information is there on the screen. Don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. Peter, did you have remarks to share?
Just to also say thank you. I liked what you said about raising the level of discourse about academic advising. I think that's important for all of us practitioners, all of us researchers to do. So help us raise the level of discourse about academic advising. And we want you to inundate us with your articles so that we can push that publish button that you see on the screen right now. Thank you.
Thank you.